live. Excellent. Okay, cool. So now what I'll do. All right. Well, since I've started, I'll do this. I told you we're breaking up this week um, into 2 weeks, Unit 3, because there was quite a bit of information, is what I was saying. Hi. Um, so there's a lot, and I adjusted the dates on the homework. I pushed stuff back. So like nothing is going to be due on the class day anymore. I'm going to give you an extra couple days. This week is different, obviously, because we're doing one unit for 2 weeks. Um, so you'll still have, if you still have questions even the following Friday, you can get through that and hopefully answer any questions. I'm catching up on homework. Hopefully you noticed. I apologize. I've been kind of slow. I know you like feedback, and to be honest, it looks good. I don't see anything. I've seen just a couple of strange things. I shouldn't say strange. Just I can understand how students can get confused with like braces and things like that, the curly braces and setting the code up. But other than that, I've been impressed. It looks really good. This is kind of what we were working on last week before we finished up. Some things wrong. So everything is in the syllabus and schedule. This week, we're actually gonna, there's nothing due this week. We're going on to 2 weeks. So we're doing unit 3 for 2 weeks. So what we've been doing last week and this week is until the 7th, October 7th. Yeah. Excuse me. So there was just some issues with curly braces, but otherwise, I think the code that you're writing is good. I kind of get on about best practice, about indenting, things of that nature, and that's just kind of my thing. You can indent 3 spaces, 4 spaces, all depends what you want to do. Um, Again, to me, it's spacing. It's about just making it look easy to read, and so you can go back and understand it. I think one student had an issue where we did the pop-up, the image pop-up, the J option pane pop-up, and she was getting an error, couldn't figure out why, and then I could see in her code that she had not imported, like we import the scanner library there. She had not imported the J option pane one, and so she got an error. So that's what I could tell from that. But other than that, I think your code is pretty good. Hopefully, it's making sense to you. I'm not doing a Kahoot this week, so you missed out on the Kahoot live. Joe's in our online section, right? Joe, right? Not Joseph, Joe, right? Joe. So he asked if he could come in. I said, yeah. And we've got, as you can see, we've got plenty of seats. There are 2 other students who usually show up a little late, so they may still show up, hopefully. But otherwise, yeah, you're welcome anytime. I've had students who would come like every other week. Like he is like, I can't make it every week. I can only come, and I was like, that's fine. So if you want to pop in every once in a while, that's not a problem. If you feel it benefits you more live versus online, because I get it, it can be kind of difficult. You're welcome to do so. And I told these guys too that if they need to be off for a week or whatever because they got something going on, that's fine too. It's very flexible. That's what's kind of nice about it. Um, and I try to record every class, as you know, just to keep it so that everybody can have the same information. One thing I like to do this because students always ask, is like, why do I need this? It's like old back in high school, you're learning about quadratic equations or all that kind of stuff in algebra. Why do I need this? Why do I need this? Well, we're studying Java, right? And Java is one of the top 10 programming languages I think I told you about still around. And it's been like that for quite a number of years. But some other stuff I found too, and you can find this too, ways you can use Java. A lot of different services out there now that if you were to get a job out in the field now, working in the cloud, there's a lot of different things you can do with Java and setting this up. And you can search at any time, again, why am I even learning this stuff is a valid question, right? Why would you want to learn something that's old? But the cloud, I thought this was kind of cool about NASA, that they use a lot of stuff at NASA, a lot of different applications. And so I decided to do a little digging and pulled up this thing about, now this is back in 2014, right? But the code is still there. But they had their NASA engineers talk about Java and Java FX and NetBeans. Now Java FX, we do that in Java too. And NetBeans is something that you could use in this class. It's just an IDE. So we use JGrasp, but NetBeans and Eclipse are 2 other versions that are out there, or IDEs out there that you could use. But I just thought it was kind of cool that these NASA engineers talk about using this software. Now, I'll post this on the announcements so you can see them too, but you can search as well. But again, it lends credence to, again, why am I learning this stuff? What, what good is it? NASA, IoT is huge. Internet of Things, the connectivity, the sensors, everything is talking to each other. All the APIs. And I think I've mentioned this like 8 million times. Excuse me, 8 million and one. As soon as you learn one language, if you've never learned a language before, and Java is a great language to learn, you can pretty much learn and take that skill set to any other language. PHP, C, any of those other languages. The syntax and that will be a little bit different, but the idea is the same concept. Self-driving cars, virtual house card, AI, artificial intelligence, that's everywhere. Data analysis, that's what we're talking about. I'm taking some classes now. There's a class I'm taking right now about data analysis. We're using a language called Python, which has been around a long time, and R for extracting data, manipulating data, that kind of thing. But Java, again, is still integral to some of that. Getting your name on the screen, making a game. I was coding in Java many, many years ago. I've been coding in Java for a long time, and we were building what are called web services. And again, those are very common. And really, all web service is, it's an application. You write an application like we're doing now, and you just put it on the web. That's what we call it. And I think the best way, I may have mentioned this before, is like you go and check the weather. You want to get the weather. What does it ask you for usually? A zip code, right? Where are you located? That's a web service. So you can have an application on your desktop or your mobile phone or whatever, and say, I want to have the weather as part of my application. You can do that. You call this web service, just feed it a zip code, or maybe it gets the GPS coordinates based on where you are. If you allow it to do it on your phone or your device or your laptop, boom, it gets that information. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, I digress. I just thought it'd be cool. So what I would do is recommend, if you're ever interested in something, obviously dig around, search. Why are you doing this? Now, I've taken stuff in college like Elizabethan poetry. It hasn't really been used much, I have to say. There's nothing wrong with that. I love to write. I do write on the side just for fun. I am not a good enough of a writer to actually get a job somewhere doing that, but there are people who do that too. Journalists, plenty of journalists and writers and that kind of thing. So, were there any questions from hungover from last week? We're going to kind of dive in and keep going with some of this. Something we're going to start too, just so you're aware. I said probably the last 10 or 15 minutes at the end of each week, I'm just going to stop talking. Because all we do is we code and talk at the same time pretty much. But I'm going to just stop and let everybody just kind of work on stuff, because maybe there's something that came up, and sometimes you don't know until you really get into the weeds of it. So I figure an extra 10 or 15 minutes in your class may be beneficial to help students kind of do that. I did that all the time with my high school students because they actually needed the time, because a lot of them didn't have similar equipment at home. But I just found it works out. It's amazing, when you start really doing stuff and the questions that, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. It's better than like midnight the night before to do. So anyway. Oh, side note, really quick. Let's go back. Okay, so I'll just kind of quick review this, what we did last week. So we had Paradise Info and Paradise Info 2. Paradise Info was the main one we created. Created this class. In the class, we had the main, and in there we created the display info. I put these little print statements in here just so I could see what was going on at the time. And then display info calls a method. And what does it call? It calls a method display info, which is in this class. So when we ran this, dun, 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 it printed everything. So it printed before display info down there. It printed, then it bounced out, goes to the display info method. It prints these two lines. Then it bounces back into here and then prints after. So you get before, prints out the content of what we just had, and then the after. And that's how that works. So once you get familiar with the calling and returning of the calling methods, it's fine. And that's all this is. So we're gonna be creating lots of methods like this. And then Paradise Info 2, which we created, it's a little bit more complicated. Sort of. We left display info in there because remember we just copied and saved this. But then we have the main method, which we created some variables, price, discount, and savings of data type double. We got input from the user, use scanner, ask for cutoff price. Remember, we typed in a system out print statement to tell the user what we want. You gotta type something to tell them what you want. And then you grab it. Then now you have price equals input. Next, you do a double in this case because it's price. It's a double. That's what you wanted up there. And you did that for a rate. And then we just print out what the discount was. But part of that too was you're calling a function called compute discount info. And we're passing it two arguments. We're passing it price and discount. I hit this line here, right there, and then boom, it bumps me down to here. It does a calculation, it gets price, it gets discount rate, it does the calculations, it's my little algorithm, very complex as you can see. It returns the savings, I come back up here, and now I have savings in there. And then I print out what I have. So once you get familiar, that is the crux of a lot of what you're going to write code on if you keep going down this path of coding. In any language, you create functions or subroutines or methods, and then you call them. And the whole idea is you compartmentalize them. I joke around again. I'll say it again. I had someone when I was an undergrad where he said, if you have a routine or method more than 10 lines, you need to chop it up. And that arbitrary. I mean, 10 lines is okay. I just had an assignment in my thing where I wrote code, and then she said, this is in Python. She says, I want you to break it up into 3 functions. I'm like, okay. So some of it was easy because you do it by what you're doing, and then some of it is a little bit more difficult. So it just depends on what you're doing. This is easy because I'm computing. You're trying to break stuff out to make it really simple, really easy. I could break this out where I'm printing stuff out. And anytime you're doing something over and over again, that's a function. If I'm printing information, printing data, whatever, it's a function. Now, if you had the system where you're getting information from a user, that block of code, and you keep doing that, and you keep getting like a discount rate, and you keep getting the discount rate and the cutoff price, you're going to want to probably put that in a function where you can just call it. Boom, I call it and do it. Because you never, ever, ever want to write the same line of code twice. That's the idea. For a number of reasons, including the fact that usually you have to make a change, and if you have it 2 places, you're going to change it one place, and then there's a good chance you'll forget to change it another place. And it just doesn't make sense. There may be, I can't think off the top of my head, potential possibilities where you may have to have very similar code in 2 different places or something like that. But usually the duplicate code, you should never have duplicate code. It makes your life a big headache. So, okay. So classes and objects, because we finished the method calls and chaining. Classes and objects. Classes is the crux of Java. Okay, and that's what we're going to be in class. It's the crux. It's what's going on. Is a relationship. An object is a concrete example of the class. So the zoo's shark is a fish, is what they're saying here. And what they're saying, and I've used this word before, instantiation. You instantiate the class. Shark is an instantiation of the fish class. Do you remember? I bring it up all the time. Let me go into Notepad really quick here. Let me make my font bigger so you can see it easier. How about that? Remember we had I talked about the dog class. So dog is the class, and then I don't do something with the dog, and then the dog you could have breed, weight, age. Okay, so you could have like these are properties, these are attributes of that class. But I'm not going to do anything to this dog class, right? So what I do is I create an instance of the dog class, and I'm going to create an instance of, say, I have these, so I'm going to create an instance of a German short-haired pointer. So now I have a German short-haired pointer, right? And there's my breed, and now I can make adjustments to this instance of this class. And I can say the weight is 55 pounds. So I say weight, oops, say 55 lbs, pounds. Age is say 4, like that, right? So now I'm using that class. I'm not ever touching the actual class itself. You can't do that. But it's a template. That's all it is. It's a template. I have a template. Those of you, if you've used Microsoft Word or Google, you have templates. You can go out there. It gives you an idea of how they want you to do it. That's the idea. So as long as you kind of stick with that, That's gonna help. That'll help you. I'll leave that there for right now. Because again, I know a lot of students get kind of flustered and frustrated by some of the verbiage. It gets kind of fancy, it's instantiation, and calling these methods and all that. And I get the same way. So I have to read stuff 2, 3, 4 times. So again, it's not just you. Trust me, I get it with some of this. So you assign a name to the class like we just did. You decide what you're going to do with it. Use the keyword class. We talked last week about public classes. Who would do public? Again, public, you want, if you want other pieces of code, areas of code to access it, you want to do the public. Otherwise, no one can see it. And we did that. We played with it where I did the classes in our code here, where I was playing with stuff like with display info. I think I went to display info in here and I made it private. You remember that? So I made that private, and all of a sudden, when I was in this other one, I tried to call it, it wouldn't do it. Let's see here. So they're going to get us into creating a class. We're going to start creating. You're going to hear me say it, and you're going to get you do it. So we're going to set here. They have an example of a public class and employee class, right? Very common class, employee, and inside there you have an employee number. Now the private there, they put private on there. So what that means is that variable employee number, which is an int, which stands for what? Integer, right? That's private to the employee class. So no other class from the outside, even if they try to access that class, because this is a public class, can see that because it's private to that class. Okay? And the reason it's private is for whatever reason the developer or programmer felt they didn't want it to be visible from the outside. Again, employee number, maybe it's, like we have in the healthcare industry, they call it PHI, private healthcare information, things like that. There's a lot of things that you can't have. I worked for a hospital for a couple of years as a programmer, and when you left your desk, anything you had on your desk had to be turned over face down, or or if you had cabinets or anything, you had to close the cabinets and even potentially lock them. Which I think is funny because if you're gonna have something face down, all somebody does is flip it up. But the idea is that someone can't literally just walk by your desk and see something about a patient. That's the idea. And people have lost their jobs over that, which is kind of scary. So I just I used to just literally take my stuff and throw it in the cabinet when I went to the bathroom or something like that and lock it. But and I never dealt with stuff like that. I never had to. People would have the screen protectors on. I don't know if you've ever used those. So if I'm at an angle, I can't see what's on the screen. In front of your computer to see what's on it. Again, just to protect it. Kind of a side note. Okay, so I have my employee class. This has one field, right? Now I can use this as a basis for any other class, and I can grow this. And what you're going to learn is we're going to create a class, and then we're going to create an base class that we start off with, and you're going to add on to it. So if you think of a house or an apartment, you can have a house, a basic house, but maybe you want to add a room onto it, or a garage onto it. You can do that. So the house doesn't change; it adds onto it, and it's called extending it. You're extending that base class, which means you can do more stuff to it. So people create classes all the time. So for new, I'll go back. Maybe I'll show you here too. I'd rather show you than talk about it. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you. Yeah, we'll come back to that in a second. Let's do it this way. I'll just come back to this for 1 second. So in this case, you have an employee class. And say this class is out there. You're like, this is a great class. I know it's only got one member in it. But say, you're like, I like the employee class. It's already created. I can use it. But you know what? I need a couple more things. I need an email address and maybe a phone number or something like that. So what you can do is you can use this employee class and you can create a second class and extend the employee class and go. And we will do that. We'll walk through all that. I'll walk you through that step by step. It's very common to do that. Because again, the idea is when someone creates a class like this, they share it, and then everybody can use it. And you're not reinventing the wheel, which is the big part of it. Okay. And the book kind of gets into all that. So create a class. Let's do this. Back up here a little bit. Again, you have the data fields. I know I told you I wouldn't bore you with PowerPoints, and I'm boring you with PowerPoints. And you can read a lot of this. Yeah. I think we need to read line by line in this. In Java. Oh, heavens no. I've been in classes where people have done, where instructors have done that. I don't know if you, it's, you literally have a whole thing of text on the screen and it will read line by line. So anyway. Okay. Code. I like code. So I have a class, public class employee. All right. Inside that, there's our private integer, our employee num. Okay. Now we're going to do is we're going to create what are called getters and setters, because when you're inside of a class, the way to get the data is you create these getters and setters. And outside the class, you'll call those getters and setters. So I'm inside the class, I have an employee, and I have one that says get employee number, get emp number, and then they also have a set employee number. Now, obviously, you can't get employee number until someone set it, but that's the idea. So on the outside, someone will call it, they will set the employee number, and then someone else may call it again, you may call it again, and then you'll do a get. And it's a way to store information with the class of that structure. It's a very common structure. If you ever ask someone about getters and setters right away, they'll know what you're talking about with object. It's part of object-oriented programming using the classes. Getters and setters. I know, we're talking a lot about that. And the book kind of shows that also on page 141. A lot of this also just deals with how you organize the class, how you set it up, that kind of thing, programming. I think I mentioned to you in the first couple of weeks of class, I said a big part of programming also is not just writing code, it's being organized. It's organizing your files, your programs, where you're putting things, doing pseudocode, how you're laying it out. It's not just going in and writing code. Anybody can just potentially go write code. So again, here we go. I have a public int, get employee number, and it's going to return it. So what this return is doing is it's returning the employee number to whoever called this method. So some program is going to call get emp number and it's going to return it. So remember this code here, this compute discount. This would be like me doing get employee number right here. It's going to return information into here, and I would do that. So I would call something like this. I would say, I don't know, emp num equals get emp num. Make sense? Like that. That's what that's doing. And right there. That's what this is doing. Get emp num is doing that. And so to actually call it, and we will do this more. I just wanted to kind of show you because I know again seeing some of this sometimes it's like confusing. So right now, if I called this getter, this get, I would be able to if there was an employee number stored there that had been there before, I would have it now. If there wasn't, then I would have nothing. I'd have null, no value. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that. So it doesn't confuse it. Actually, you know what? I'll leave it in there and I'll just comment it out. I'm much more big on commenting out. Okay. All right. And again, employee class is 1, 2 fields like that. Okay. You want to place things in a logical order, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And again, that's like I said, kind of what I'm trying to reinforce what we're doing stuff. So we have the class again. And they have in the book private. They're all private. The variables are all private, and they have the employee number, which we saw, last name, first name, and then a salary, and then any methods. So I'm creating this class with all this private information. It's private to the class. So let's, without further ado, before we all fall asleep, let's do that. Let's work through one of the UDOITs, and then we can talk through the code. And we're going to do this, create this file service. Okay. So I'm going to go into JGrasp right there. And again, I have a lot of these already written, but we're going to create new ones. Let's do File, New, Java. And we're going to talk about the other IDEs similar to the NetBeans, Eclipse. In fact, that's one of the extra credits I think I have in there in the assignments where if you download them. And those of you who want to do that, you could. Let me do this to you really quick. Let me double check. I think it's in 4. I think it's in week 4. Learning units. Hold on. think it's unit 4. So unit 4, we do this. Yeah. So in unit 4, the next one, I give you extra credit if you install a new IDE. And if you've already done it, for those of you who are into any of this stuff, you've already done it, yeah, that's fine. Just take a screenshot of what you got. But all you need to do is install it, and it's free. And it's a link here, NetBeans and Eclipse. And some students find that after they download these, they like them a lot better than JGrasp. They're more powerful, they're more robust, there's more things you can do with it. But potentially they can also be more confusing. JGrasp is pretty basic, keeps things simple. And there's nothing wrong with JGrasp. It's a nice, simple IDE that you can use for doing this. And people still use, I still use JGrasp a lot. But again, something that you should be aware of this. So if you ever do get a position somewhere, you want to have a job somewhere doing code, they may ask, do you have any experience in NetBeans or Eclipse? You can say, yeah, I do. I have experience. I haven't used it a lot, but I have experience. I understand it. That's always the fun part. All right. So let me ask this. So before I'm off on tangents, let me go out here. Blackboard. AITP is a student organization for professionals, Association of IT Professionals. You can add the group to your Blackboard. It doesn't cost you anything. Everything is free. They do a lot more. They try to do stuff with working on PCs, fixing PCs. If you don't know anything, they don't care if you have any interest in that. But the idea behind AITP is not just about PC clinics and all that. It's all about networking. You meet people. And so you can go in here and they have announcements and they're trying to get, and it was bought out recently by CompTIA. So they have a meeting actually. I'm glad I brought this was last week, the 24th. We missed it. But you can go and they have meetings all the time. Baked goods. But you can just go in Blackboard and you can just join this group and then you'd know, and they just send you emails. They don't harass you, they don't bother you. It's pretty much, hey, we just want to let you know this is going on. Again, the reason I bring it up is it's good to be connected. When you're looking for jobs, when you're trying to find stuff, the more networking you do, the better you'll have a chance of finding a job. They say there's a certain, I don't know what the percentage is of people who find jobs that are unadvertised. It happens all the time. Hey, we're looking for someone to do blah, 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 really, and you'd be searching the online ad. I mean, I used to search Craigslist, Monster, Dice, like every job site imaginable. And the problem is you find a lot of the same jobs on some of the same sites. So you just spend a lot of time. I look for internships, entry level, anything I could do to get my foot in the door for some of this stuff. That's just, we all have to start somewhere, right? So that's what I was doing. But these organizations, a lot of times they have people who come in. So we've had students who would go to some of these meetings and they'd have someone come in from different companies to talk about what they do. And they'd hire some of our students. They'd stay in school, you'd still do classes, but then they'd hire you to do that. Not that I want to pull you away from educator wherever, but if that's what you want to do, that's just something to consider. Anyway, I know we missed the meeting, which is a bummer, but they will have one. They do them regularly. I don't know when the next one is. They have PC clinics coming up. They do fundraising because they're going to do a trip. They go out. This one's going to be in Plano, Texas. They have competitions. They do all kinds of cool stuff. And it's good on your resume. It shows that you're involved. It's kind of really cool. Again, they don't push. They don't, that kind of thing. So PC clinics. Oh, here's one. PC clinic on Saturday, 10/12. If you know anything about PCs, just because you want to be a programmer doesn't mean you can't do stuff like this. Again, it's a way to meet people. A lot of people I know, I used to do server builds, tech support stuff, but I also did programming, so I did both. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I digress. I go on that. I think it's important for you to be connected, contact, all that. Think about it as like LinkedIn, but in real life. All right, where are we? Okay, so let's do this before we run out of time. So SPA service. We're going to create this class called SPA service. So public. Pretty much everything we're going to do, mostly public, but SPA service. Okay. Again, depending on what you want to do, I'm always hitting enter, open curly, close curly. If you put the curly up here again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just not my style. And again, you'll develop your own style. Now in the SPA service, they want us to create private variables. So private just lowercase, and then string, which is a capital S. Like I mentioned, I'll mention again. So string is one of the data types, but it's not one of the primitive data types. And that's right. String is actually a class. And you also know that it doesn't change colors. So when I do an int, and we'll do double in here in a second. I'll do private, and we'll do double, space, and then price. Notice double, the color changed, right? Because it's one of the basic data types. That string confuses students because like, well, wait a second. Yeah, it's actually a class in Java. That's just the way they set it up. Char, double, int, all those are native data types, but string is not. But you can still do a lot of string manipulation. Okay, so we have a class called spa service, and now we're going to set up our getters and our setters. Okay, and we're going to do descriptions and pricing information because that's just what we want. We're going to do some basic stuff. So first of all, we're going to do is we're going to do public, and this will be a void set service description. Okay, and we're going to pass it a parameter, service, which is string. Okay, open curly, close curly. I can call this anything I want, as I think hopefully you know by now, this method. It's not returning anything here. It's a void. I'm not returning anything. I'm setting something. So something's going to call this and pass it a parameter, and the parameter is going to be something related to service. And then we're going to do a service description, which is this. I created this internal string here, so I'm going to just copy and paste it right there. So service description is going to equal what? It's going to equal whatever has been passed in. So the developer is going to call this method, and they're going to pass data in there, and it's going to save it into the variable, so I can get it later. So that's set service description, and then we're also going to do, I think, price, right? So we'll do public void and then set price. And this is a service price. So this one is a double data type, and it's service price. And then we're going to close that. Again, open curly and close curly. Yes. Okay. And then this time we're going to set the price. So remember we created the price up here. I'm just going to copy that because I don't want to mess it up. And I'm going to paste it. So price is equal to what? It's equal to service price, which just got passed in. Some other program is going to call service price. I have an extra space here. It doesn't make a difference, but I like that. Okay. Oh, I didn't do that. I can't believe it. I've been typing. I usually like to type a couple lines and then save it. So I'm going to save this, and it's got my class name of spa service, and so that's what's going to do. Again, I'm going to get the error message, the overwrite message, because I've already got it. You shouldn't get that. Don't forget to save it where you'll remember to get it. Most of you are working on your own laptop, so it's yours, so that's good. I always feel bad when students work on the computers in the classroom and then they forget it. All right, so we just set the description and we set the price. And we also now we have to allow the developer to get them, right? So we're going to do public. Now this is not a void. Notice each one started public void, public void. This is not. This is going to return the data. So what are we going to return? This one we're going to return the service description. So the data type of service description is probably what? It's not an integer, it's a string. Okay, so get service description. Again, you can always do shorter names. I typically lean towards shorter names. Now we're not passing anything. All we're doing, because we're doing a get. The setter passed the information. The getter just grabs it. Open curly, close curly. And then all it does in this one is it returns data. So this time it's going to return what? It's going to return the service description. And service description was up here. That was the information we saved earlier. Seems a little crazy, right? We create this getter, we set the information, then we get it. but you're doing it all in the same class. I don't understand this. Why are we doing it this way? What'll happen is we're going to create another class and we're going to call these from the second class, and then you'll see, hopefully see, makes more sense. That's how you, so this class just sets everything up. You'll notice there's no public main in here, right? There's no void static main. We are not running this class. This is just a class that we created to get and to save and get information. That's it. We're not running this class. We're going to build it. We're going to get a class file out of it when we build it, but that's it. So now public double, and this one's get price. Again, no parameters, because we're just getting the price. And this time, first one we're doing a string, this time it's a price. So price is a decimal, and we could do a single or float. We're going to do double. And this time we're going to return the price. And price, again, is right there. I'll make it smaller so you can see it all at one shot, like that. You can do this. Now you're going to compile this still, so you can hit your little plus key if you want, compile the file. And if you hopefully you didn't mistype anything and it compiles fine. So you do want to compile it. Because then when we go to the second class that we're going to create, that one will then use these methods that we just created. Okay? We're not there yet. We're going to create one. Okay. So let's jump back to the PowerPoint, the very exciting PowerPoint for 1 second. We got that, we did that. So this is what we just basically did. This is for the employee numbers, name. Here's our getter, and setter, employee salary. So we basically did the same thing. We did that for spa service. The set has a void. Set has the void, whereas the get has some data type because you're returning some data type. So in this case, it's a string. This one's a double, like so. Just to be aware of. Okay. Now they're talking about instances of classes. And that's what I talked about with this earlier. When you have the dog class, I want to use this dog class to do something with it. So I want to use spa service to do something with it. Well, in order to use the dog class, I had to create an instance of it. And then I could use it. Well, gee, in order to use the spa, I have to create an instance of it. And so they're showing you how you do that. And what you do is you use the class name itself, and then you create some whatever you want to call it. Okay, this is the way I typically do it. Class name, whatever I want to call it, new, again, class name with parentheses. Kind of a long thing, but that's typically how you do it. So now some employee here becomes the instance of the employee class that I just created. So we're going to do something very similar for the spa service. We're going to create an instance of that to use them. What we're going to do, I'm going to go back. We're going to leave this. We're not going to touch it. Hopefully it built. Compile. Did it compile for everybody? Did it work? Is it working? Cool. Because we needed to do that to go on. Side note. Okay. So now what we're going to do we have spa services, and now we're going to create a new class called create spa services or use spa. I usually say use, but they say create, so that's fine. So we're going to do file, new, Java, make it bigger. So this one, we're going to import the scanner because the user's got to type some information in. So we have to import the scanner library, Java. Now some students like to do the JOption pane because they like the graphics. You know, I really don't have a problem. If your functionality works, if everything works fine, you can use however you want to. If you want to use crayons to do it somehow and get it in there, go for it. I don't think it's possible, but anyway. So public class, and this one's called create spa services. Did I spell it correctly? And then open curly and close curly. You'll notice the book did too, and I like to keep, you like to at least keep some, if not all, of the same name from the original class in there. So it makes it kind of obvious as far as naming goes. Because if you just call this create, miscellaneous, it wouldn't mean a lot, right? You'd be like, well, what am I doing? What am I creating? Well, this is kind of obvious. I'm creating a spa service. Oh, I bet you that's related to the spa service class that over here. Yeah, it is. It's amazing. Okay. Yeah, I know I'm being obvious. But I'm just saying, you never know. All right. So guess what? Now we're going to do our public static void main. Because we want to run this one. Okay. Open curly, close curly. And this is the one we're going to use when we're going to run and do stuff with. Before I get any further, I am going to save it. And again, because I already have it named as create spa services, that file comes up. I'm going to save it. I will get my override. I'm just going to override it because we're going to do all things. We're going to do everything all together. We will finish this one and we'll take a break because I didn't realize time is going. We might speed up a little bit. I want to make sure we get through. Yeah, maybe we're doing okay. Again, this is why we did this in 2 classes. Just a lot of information. Okay, so we're going to create a string, service, double, price. Gee, that looks familiar, doesn't it? When we created the other one, it also had a service and right? So yeah, kind of makes sense. Here's the fun part. If you don't remember the class you want to use, just go find it. You're going to probably have to go find it and look at it and go find it. Oh, there it is. Oh, spa service. I'm just going to double click on that and copy it. And then come back to this one. So spa service. And I can call it whatever I want. They want you to call it first service. That's fine. Call it whatever you want. Equals new spa service, like so. So first service is now a new instance of spa service. So this first service now has access to all the getters and setters that we created. Any variables, anything that's private to that, it's got access to all that. And I'm a big fan of copy and paste. Just remember to change your stuff. And we're going to change this to what? It's amazing. Second service. Woohoo! How original, right? Okay. Second service. Very exciting. Okay. Oh, and now we have to also make sure we set up the scanner. We talked about this before, but now it's even more obvious. So scanner. The book says keyboard. I like input. If you do keyboard, that's fine. So equals new scanner. Now this is a little different because system is part of one of the libraries, internal libraries, and so that's why this is set up. So class name, whatever you call it, equals new, and in this case it's spa service. In this case, scanner and then system in is a parameter you actually have to pass in this one, but that doesn't change. Okay, let's ask the user for some data. So system.out.print. I'm going to just do print, not print line, because I want to keep the cursor on the same line. Excuse me. Enter service. Like so. Okay. And then we're going to get the service, right? So service, there's my variable. I just created it. Service is right there. Service is equal to input. Now, to get a string from the keyboard, we always did next int, next double. To get a string, all you do is do something called next line, as it shows in the book. That's all it is, just next line. Okay, so now I have the data. Now, to be honest with you, potentially what I would do at this point, just to make sure everything's working correctly, is I would stop this for a second, because they want you to write a whole bunch of code, and I'm not a big believer in not writing a ton of code at one time. I'm going to compile this. And even if we run, we have a couple minutes, because I want to give you guys a break in about 5 minutes. All right, so we'll do the service like so. I got it. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to do a system.out.println ln and say service is equal to service, like so. Okay. Now there's a bunch of things you can do. Or actually, I should do a plus. Should I do a plus with that? Some students here. Let's do a plus. I'll be a good boy. I think that's the correct syntax. Same language. I'm going to recompile it again. And then we can just step through. again, you have smaller lines of code. So it's using the other class. So we created this one and we built it. So it's there and ready for anybody to use it. It just so happens I'm going to use it right here. And now I'm going to run this. Enter service. So I'll say I want to get a foot massage, which I've never done. And then all it does is spit out, hopefully yours will just spit out foot massage. Service equals foot massage. The only reason I'm doing this is just to make sure my code is correct, it compiles, and then I'm actually getting the data I think I should be getting. And I am. So yay. Okay. Worst case scenario, a lot of new developers will just start writing tons of lines of code without compiling it, running it to making sure things are cool. I'm going to then comment this line out. There's nothing wrong with that. I just commented out. It did what it's supposed to do. I'll probably be using these print statements more. Let's do a couple more. So they got the service. Let's do price. System.out.print. And they want you to say enter price. Enter price. Like so. And then guess what? It's going to put that in the price variable. So price is going to equal what I get, input. Now, what kind of data type is price? Price is a double. So I need to do next what? Double, like so. Now I feel pretty confident in what we just did, and all we did was add 2 more lines of code. So I'm not going to print this out too. You could. You could save it and you could be like, okay, let me make sure that I'm getting the price correctly. If you get further down the line, you can do that. I mean, there's nothing wrong. I mean, all you're doing is copying and pasting a print statement and putting it down there if you want to. This takes extra time, but I feel pretty confident in what we did. Okay. So now we have the information. We got the information from the user. We need to call the setter to actually save that. So remember the name of our class? First service. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to copy it. Control C. And I'm going to come back down here. And I'm going to paste it. So first service dot, I'm going to call a method of first service. Well, what methods do I have? Well, the methods I have for first service are what? I can set a description, set a price. I can get a service description or get a price, right? What do I want to do in this case? I'm going to set the service description. So if you really want to be lazy, you can literally just go over to set service description and copy that. Come back in here and you can paste it. Now there's nothing wrong with typing it in. I just tend to make mistakes and typos. Okay? And remember, with the setter, you're passing information to it, so it stores it. What am I passing? I'm going to pass the service, which is right here. And I'm going to paste it. Just like so. Okay? And then guess what? We're going to do the same thing. We'll do a couple more lines and we'll take a break. And then we'll do first service again. I'll type it this time. This time we're going to do what? We're going to set the price. I type it correctly. And that's the thing. A lot of times when you have errors with some of the stuff that you're calling, it's just mistyped. It's a typo. I forgot the capital P, or I didn't do this, or guess what? I put a space in there. I had a student who had something I couldn't see, and she had 2 spaces in there. It was just like crazy stuff like that. It happens all the time. And she was pulling her hair out, and I was pulling my hair out, and I don't have much to pull out. So we're going to say the price, set the price, like so. Always remember to end it with semicolons. Okay. Now the book has you go through this again. I think get price again, blah blah blah. Okay, we're just gonna do the one. Okay, you don't have to do 2 because if you can do it 1 time, you can do it twice. And to me, that's just busy work. So for those of you listening at home, and you guys here, it's just too much. But I mean, it's no big deal. You copy and paste, really. But you know what? Let's just finish this and then we'll take a break. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the information. Okay? And what they want you to do is they want you to print it out. That's really it. So you're going to do it and then you're going to print it out. First service is this, first service that. So let's do this. Now, what they do in the book is they put it all on one line. To be honest with you, that makes me nervous. I don't think it's a clean way of doing it. I don't like how the book does it. 50 for those. Let's see. Give me 1 second here. This is chapter 3. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. I'm right. I'm almost there. Okay, there's spa service. There we are. So then what they do is here, they put all this on one line like this. I don't like that. It's a you can do it. There's nothing wrong with doing this. It's legitimate. If you did that, it's not that it's not best practice. I don't know. I just think it's a lot of information. So this is what I like to do. They want you to print out the service details, right? So we're going to keep it really simple, and we're going to do this. I have a string, I have service, and then I've got that. So I got the service already from there. I got the service and price from there, right? And I set them, okay? Now, you could use the same variables if you wanted to, but for the sake of just so that it makes sense, we can do this. I'm going to say string. I'll say, let's do this. I'll say service output. I know it's different from the book. I'll say price output. It just make it obvious. I just want to make it really obvious to you what's going on. So I have two new variables I created called service output and price output. Hopefully that makes sense of what I'm doing. And then what I'm going to do is do this. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to grab the first variable, say service output. And I'm going to say service output is going to equal what? It's going to equal first service. And I'm going to do the get. Now I'm going to get the data, right? Again, if you don't remember, go back to the class and say, how do I get the service? Right there. Get service description. Get that, copy it, go back to there, paste it. That's it. Two parentheses. Remember, you're getting data, so you're not having to pass in information. Okay? Second one, price output. Do the same thing. Price output is equal to what? Guess what? It's equal to the same class because we're only using the one class right now. First service dot. Guess what? Get price. It's always helpful when you've got multiple monitors. You can see what it is right there. But copy and paste works well too. So now I've got the data that I just saved. I know it's kind of obvious. I set it there. I'm getting it here, but it just shows you can do this. Normally it doesn't work like that. You don't do it, one after the other. And then I'm just going to print out the information. System.out.print ln is, and what do they want to say? First service. So say first service, and then you do a quote, and then you plus, and then just type, that's the variable. Service output. Like so. Okay. And then again, system.out.println ln, and then price. That's okay. I don't care. You can break it up. You can concatenate, and that's all they're doing. The idea is you understand how to get data in and out. That's all I care about. How it formats and how it looks pretty, that's totally secondary or tertiary. Like so. Okay. So I save the information. I get it from the user. I set it. It's in there. I get the description then. I get the price back. And then I'm just going to spit it out to the user. Again, the book has you doing 2 sets of this, doing the same thing twice, because that's why they have first service and second service. That's fine. If you do first service, that's fine. And the book also has you combining everything in one shot, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. If you follow the book, you can do that. Let's compile it, and we'll take a break. Make sure everything compiles. Let's run it. Service. I don't know, massage. $50. And then it just spits it out. There's things that you can do to make it look like money, currency. You can put a dollar sign in front of it. You can do all kinds of stuff. A cheap way to put a dollar sign, you just literally just do this. Just put a dollar sign inside that quote area like that, right? Recompile, rerun it. Service, massage, again, $50. There's my $50. But you'll notice I'm also have a 10.0, and there's more formatting you can do to make it look pretty. But let's take a break. And we're back here. Let's do this. Okay, so talking about this, like I said, so create an instance of this object. We got it. So we created spot service here. We have the getters and the setters in here that give us the information. So we're going to store it, and then later on, at any time, in this case, we did it right away. I do want to call it, again, I use, sometimes I say my call it use spa services, create spa services, whatever you want to call it. But I would recommend trying to keep some of the name of the original class in that so that you know what you're doing. Again, I recommend, because 3 months, 6 months, a year down the line, you may go back to this code and you'll be like, what the heck was I doing? You know, or someone else is going to look at it and they're going to, and you want it to be easy because you don't want them to keep going, what did you do here? I don't understand what you did here. Why did you name, you know, you want your code to be self-explanatory. So it just saves a lot of headaches. Again, now I did this extra, these extra variables. You don't have to do that, but that's what I did. So again, we never even used the second service. We never used that. We created an instance of it, but we didn't use it. And that's okay. So if you wrote this code, right now what I would do is potentially I would just go and say, like, you know what, we never use this. I'm just going to comment it out. But you can leave it. It's okay. Because all it does is create memory. It takes memory up and it creates an instance of this class. Nothing happens to the instance. We don't use the instance. We get the information from the user, right? And then here we're setting, and then we're doing the gets, doing the setters and the getters. And again, you're going to be tired of me hearing you say that, setters and getters, but that's kind of the way it goes. All right. Now the book also wants you to do. Okay. I think there was a PowerPoint piece on that. Where was it? We got the objects, we created the class, turn the object. So a constructor method, it creates its initialize its class objects is what it's called. Sounds kind of cool. You can create your own constructor methods. And Java writes them. So Java does a lot of this stuff behind the scenes that you don't even realize. Writes a lot of code behind the scenes and it uses them. But you can also explicitly do that. Do some of that. So let's see. Will they show you in this one or not to show you? There we go. So here's an example of a constructor. So we have the employee class for right now it's the default constructor. There's no arguments, there's nothing. So it's the default. It's automatically created by the Java compiler. We just did this too, right? When we did our first service in that, we did this right there. It's a default constructor. It's already created for us just by us doing this. Okay, so we don't need to worry about that. For any class we do not write one. However, you can also create your own constructors. Let's see. And there's guidelines. These are guidelines about what you have to do. You must have the same name as the class it constructs. You cannot have a return type, and it's public access. So here is a constructor. So this one's called the employee class constructor, and it assigns a salary. So they create one called public employee. And then they have a variable in there called emp salary is equal to 300. Okay, so this is a constructor that just was created to do that. Okay, and the book talks about that. And again, the constructor actually the book says a constructor establishes the object. A default constructor is one that requires no arguments. But in cases where we want arguments, then you have to create your own constructor. Because normally you don't need to, but sometimes you do. So in this case, for example, let's say we wanted every employee to have a default starting salary of say $300. What you would do is you would create this constructor called employee, and you'd have a variable in there and set the salary to $300, and boom, you're done. Okay. If you didn't care, if you're like, I don't care, they don't need to have the $300 as default, then you wouldn't even need to do this. You could just use the default constructor class that's already created that we did, and that's what we showed before. All right. So let's do this. So, pardon, sorry, I'm going to go there, back there. Okay, so one of the things we want to do is add a constructor class. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to spa service here. So here's spa service, okay, and then one is we're going to create a. We're going to do one because after the field declarations and before the method and price to 0. Because normally we don't care, but we're going to do it here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here at the top of spa service, and we're going to say public spa service. Now remember, and look at it's the same exact name as the class. Okay. Open curly, close curly. like so. And then inside here, we're creating our own constructor. We want to decide, we want the service description. I'm just going to copy that. We want to have a default of XXX. Okay. And then default for the price equal to 0. So what happens is every time this class is instantiated, anytime you create an instance of this class, service description has a default value of XXX and has a price of 0. So if you enter nothing, it should at least have that. Okay. And then what they want you to do, so we're gonna compile this. Again, anytime you make a change to anything, class or whatever it is, you have to compile it for it to use it. We're gonna compile it. And then what they want you to do is go back to the create spa services one. All right. And what they want you to do, we're gonna comment out some lines. Okay. And basically they want us to comment out lines. They say, comment the lines below, blah, blah, blah. And let me go to the, so I'm gonna go ahead like this. Right here. So we did this, public spa service. You do that, and then they want us to do what? They want us to comment these lines out. They don't want us to get that information because you're not going to get it from the user, right? So if you comment it out and you say enter this, enter that. So you can do it a couple ways. You can just do like this. You can just do // right? You're not going to do, this is getting the information and then it's setting them. You're not going to do any of that stuff, right? Okay. So that is, oh, enter service. We don't want to enter service. We don't want to give any data. No data. Okay. Oh, I had a good sidebar, but I'm not going to bring it up because it's irrelevant to what we're talking about. But it's interesting. It's about big data and how we give all our data to all the companies. Anyway, so now what we're going to do is we're going to run it. Notice that we're not going to get any information from the user. And what we're going to do is we're going to just spit out. We're going to spit out a service description and a price. Well, what's going to show up? Well, if we're right, what it should show up is the default, right? Because we put that in constructor. Let's see if that works. Let's run this. And there you go. So we entered no information, but because we put the default XXX and 0 in the constructor, it took that. Now there's other ways of doing that as well, but that's a nice clean way of doing that. Obviously you can come in this program here and you could set the default price here and the service to a value too, right? I could go into service here and I could say this, right? I could do that and I can set the price here, again, is equal to 0. But now that's hard coded in there, which is again no different than the other thing, but it's cleaner to do it as part of the constructor. If I come in here, there you go. Because again, you want to go back. Because here's the other thing. When you do it in here, it's something that you may want that anytime anybody creates an instance of this class, you want that to affect all the classes, that instances. If I go back to my code and I just do it in my code right here, it does not affect any other classes. So it depends on the situation. If you want to create defaults where anybody who uses this creates an instance of this class, boom, the defaults affect everybody. It's like a template, right? That's what we created. If you're like, no, I don't want to affect anybody else. I just want this for my instance. Then in your code, you would do that is you would type that in there. You'd say, okay, I'm going to do it in here, ABC, like that. Here's another question. Let's do this. I did spa service and I did that XXX and 000. But what if I change it in here? Will it override it? Let's see. So now I'm going to build this. Oh, what did I do? Oh, price is not a string. Guys, just yell at me and say, that's not a string. It's a double. All right. All right, let's run this. So is it going to be XXX or ABC? Interesting, right? So the constructor runs and the constructor overrides what I put in here. Because I create a new instance of that there, first service, and then here I'm getting the data. Part of the reason is here I'm doing the get right there, right? I'm doing the get there, and the get's calling that. So this gets overwritten too. So service output. So actually, that was probably poor. Let's do this. I made a boo-boo. I made a boo-boo. Hey, boo-boo. You guys ever see Yogi Bear? That's old, I know. I didn't used to watch it much. Maybe. So I need to do it to this one, service output and price output. So let me do this again. A, B, C. And now let's do the price. Now let's see if it overrides it. Let's say this is 1. Try it again. Let's compile it. And let's run it. Nope. The constructor overrode it, which is interesting. So be aware. So now if I didn't have that in the constructor, again, if I took this and if I commented this out in the constructor, or how to do multi-line comments, / that, rebuild this, go back to this, rebuild this, rerun this, and then I get first service is null, and there, the output, because it's trying to get it from here again. So it doesn't care what I initialize this to, it gets overwritten here, right? So in this case, so none of this matters. So again, the constructor is the way to go. And if it's a case where you're like, well, I don't want, everybody doesn't want to use this, well, then maybe you need to create a new class then or something, you know? Maybe if this group doesn't want it and this group does, you know, if it's one person, then you got to figure out why, but just something to think about. But anyway, so, okay. Actually, we're good. We're actually gonna finish this. This is good. So we're at the end here. We're gonna do one more. I'm gonna make sure I have this all set. Okay. So talking about data types, we're saying that classes are data types. Okay. Classes are data types. So often referred to as what's called abstract data types, which is kind of a fun one. What does that mean? And implementation, it's hidden in access to public, the methods that we're creating, those are public, okay? Whereas programmer defined data type, so we can create our own data types, and obviously they're not built into the language. So again, I can create something, but no one else can have access to that, right? A lot of what we've been doing is sharing. I create a class and I share that kind of thing. But a class is a data type. You're talking about different types of data. Then they have different things. Don't do it. Don't place a semicolon at the end of a method header. Don't think default constructor means only the automatically supplied one. Blah, blah, blah. But that's it in the summary. So let's do one last piece here, and then I'll let you guys work. So we're going to go back to the create fast services. If you're not there, I'm going to go back to there. I'm going to, now we commented these lines out. And so what they're going to do is, they're going to delete some information. So we're going to make some changes here. This is the data types one. So create the service now. So we're going to delete the declarations for service pricing keyboard. Okay. I'm not deleting anything. I'm going to comment it out. I don't like to delete stuff. So service and then price, and they wanted to do also, they want the input. They say keyboard, but I'm using input. Okay. Delete the 6 statements that prompt the user and get values. So I am not deleting those again. I commented those out. I'm going to comment this out. I'm basically commenting freaking everything out. Pardon me. Everything. I have this class still created. Okay. It says don't prompt. Also delete the 7 statements that prompted you for the second service. So we didn't do that. All we did was the first service. In place of the statements you just deleted, insert 2 new statements. So I'm gonna come into all that. Now, if you want to, the book inside you can save it. When you turn this in, I'll see what you did. So don't freak out that you're overwriting stuff. I mean, I can see what you've done, so don't worry about it. If you do it separately, that's fine. If you put it all in one file, that's fine. I'm fine with it. I can figure it out. All right. All right. So we're creating the class instance here, and then we're going to do this. So in place of the statements you just deleted, insert two new statements. The first sends a copy of the first service object to a method named getData. Okay. So this is kind of weird. So I created this instance. So this is going to stay. Okay. So now I'm going to come below here. And I'm going to do this. So now we're going to say first service is equal to getData. First service. Okay. It returns SPA service to there. And then we're going to do the same thing. For instance, we'll do second service too. We'll just do that. Second service is equal to get data. Second service, like so. Okay. And then it says after the closing brace for the main method, but before closing the curly brace for the class, we're going to create another. We're going to create another method. So down here, they didn't tell me to get rid of this though. So right now I'm going to go down here. So I'm in the class still. I'm going to go small so you can see where I am. So I'm out of main, but I'm still inside the class there, right there. Okay. So they want us to do what? In place of the statement, we did that. The first sends a copy of the method named getData. So we have to create this method. We're calling a method called getData here, right? But we haven't created it yet. So here we have to go. This is what we're going to create down here. Start at public static getData. And we're going to pass it the class SPA service. So you can pass it a whole class space service. Okay. Kind of crazy. Open and close my curlies. Okay. So inside there, we use string and they want us to use service again. Let's see what happens. Okay. Double price and then scanner. I'm going to do input again instead of keyboard equals new scanner system.in like so. Okay. And they want the same information. Continue method by prompting for user for accepting a service. So I'm going to cheat because we took this. And I'm just going to go back up and copy this first set of lines of codes to get the service and the price. You want description too? I just want service and price. Get the service and the price like that. So this is the get data. So we're creating a method called get data. We're going to enter service. I left it in there. I just copied it. Kind of start to lose track of it. I'm going to leave this commented out. We don't need that. That was just for debugging purposes. And I'm going to do this. As soon as we're done with this, I'll give you guys time. I know it's like almost 20 minutes. This should be at the end. So it says finish the method by assigning the entered service and price to SPA service and object parent using SPA service. Then return it. So what we do at the end then, so I got the service and I got the price, right? I'm in get data. Then what I'm going to do is say service that set, because remember service is what's passed in, that set service description like so, and we're passing it service. It's crazy. Let's see if this is going to work. service.set price. And this time we're going to send price there. And then finally, we're going to return service. Like so. Public static spa service, public static. Oh, I messed up. I missed a line here. I missed a line up here. Public static. It should be public static spa service get data spa service. So you're using the class as a data type. That's what we're talking about. So the class itself is the data type. This is normally what? A void or a double or an int or something. So the class itself that we created is the actual data type. Kind of crazy. And then we're just calling them, we're creating our own method called getData. And we're passing it the service information. So we're passing all that. So that's the data type that gets pressed into there. All right, let's see if this is going to work. Let's compile it. No, all kinds of errors. Okay, so what kind of error? And this is the error, right? Right. So the book is telling us. Oh, that I missed. No. Oh, that's me. That's my 32. All right, let me get rid of this. Oh wait, no, that's fine because I did that. I did things a little bit differently in mine. It should work the same way. Yeah, service output. Let me put those back. I forgot. I had to leave those because we still want these to display. So service output, and those should be uncommented. If you commented, let's redo that. But we're going to get an error on service. Service 4. All right, let's clear this. Let's do this again. Let's do a compile on this. All right. So, and this is the error, yeah. So I'm passing something in service, but yet they call it service. Does anybody see a problem with that? It says variable service is already defined in method getData, and it says it in the book. The book tells you to do this, right? So you've got a couple of things. There's a couple of simple ways you can fix this. You can't have the same name here, right? That can't be the same. And it's just passing it a value. So you could just do something like this. And then we'd have to set it equal if I did that to there. Because we're using service here. Service is a local variable here, right? It comes in, enter service, the whole thing comes in, get data. When I call get data, I'm passing it the class, gets assigned the first service. I'm calling the class. But the class, the method I created, spa service, get data, if I leave this like that, it's going to come up with that duplicate, and that's the problem there. And then it's going to give me, can't find that. So what did you end up doing when you resolved this? Did you just, yeah, it's a bug. So those of you, if you follow the book, you can't have this as service. As you can see, I'm getting all kinds of errors because it's conflicting. So a simple way to do this is to change it to S, like so, because now I've got this local variable called service, and then I come down here, and S is what we're passing in. So S is the method, is the class. So we change that there, right? And we do that there, and then we return. Don't we have to return S also? Yeah, we return S. So those all become S instead of what the book says. And to make sure we're correct, and this should work the exact same way. So that works. So unfortunately, and you'll probably already run into this, the book is not always correct. So S there then corresponds to those two. This is kind of wacky, kind of mind bending for those getting used to methods and that, but you're literally SPA service is the data type. And that's this last piece. It's called abstract data types because that's the data type. So now if we run this, let's run this. In theory, it should still work the same way. Oh, yeah, two. I did it twice. I don't know. Swim. Is that a service? I don't know. $35. There you go. But I only print out the one. But basically, it works the same way. Because if you go back to the other one, so it's kind of crazy. But so that's yeah. I think you're the only one that contacted me about that. Which is so, but just well, some students are just weren't as far ahead as you were. But that's the crazy thing. So if you ever run into something weird like that, where you're getting conflicts and things like that, kind of figure out, look at the errors. Again, your duplicates, why is it doing that, that kind of thing.